feeling stuck, like you're standing at the edge of something more, but you're sort of unsure on how to take the leap?
If so, it is time to break free from the hesitation, the self doubt, and that spinning in place. Join us, Lisa and Kari, for Unstuck and Unstoppable, which is a powerful masterclass designed to help women just like you move from uncertainty to bold, clear action.
So, in this transformational session, you'll learn how to break through the barriers that have been holding you back. You'll reconnect with your power and your purpose, and you'll step confidently into your next chapter with clarity and courage.
So, this is your moment to stop playing small and start living the life that's been calling you. If you're ready to move forward with confidence and create what's next, this masterclass is for you.
Absolutely. So go to our website, thethingsweknowpodcast.com, and click on Masterclass. We cannot wait to see you there. You're not meant to stay stuck. You're meant to be unstoppable.
Can't wait to see you there.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to The Things We Know. Today, we're talking about something that comes up in nearly every relationship, which is, and not just romantic, but friends, family, everything, right? How to support the people we love without getting swept up in their waves.
Yeah. So we're calling this episode Be a Lighthouse, Not a Lifeboat. And that's really because I think we both learned sometimes the hard way, but often in just observation too. We've had a few years that being a steady source of light is not the same as jumping in to save somebody.
Yeah, for sure. One is way more draining. And I would almost argue not even as successful as the other. Like, I think being a lifeboat, it's like the old biblical quote, like, teach a man to fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also seems like if you're listening to this, you're probably like, duh. But honestly, like I think there are ways that we all get caught up. It feels really good to help someone, to like, it feels really good to be the person. It's as much as we don't want to bother people, we all love to be bothered by somebody who needs help. Like we love to be
Yes.
able to help. If you need a ride or your car broke down, like, do you need me to come walk your dog while are at an appointment, whatever that is. I mean, I
Yeah.
just did that for a friend who had knee surgery and I was so glad she asked.
Yeah.
So I'm not really talking about, you know, being a kind, generous person if you have the time and helping someone out. We're talking about, those ways it gets tricky in love, in love and
Mm,
friendship, where you're like, oh, they really need my help. And for people who walk around knowing or feeling like they know better and they wish people would ask them, like that can get really tricky. It's like, oh, I want to go do this, and then overfunctioning can happen. So we'll get into that,
mm,
and I think it came to us, just thinking about how often women are taught or praised for being selfless helpers, which has come up here quite a bit, right?
yeah.
And I think we can confuse support with rescuing. And again, if you're like me, you hear that, you're like, I don't rescue people, but truly be honest with yourself. Like, does it feel good to feel a little heroic? I think coaching taught me it's not helpful to see people as incapable, but I also like parenting has taught me that,
Yeah.
being on either side of that has taught me that like we hold them capable even when they're struggling. And when I say we hold them capable, really anyone that you're in relationship with, if you really can see them as capable, the way you show up for them is different than if you don't see them as capable, then you're helping, but you're really not giving them enough maybe credit or opportunity to step into something. I'm not sure. And it's not that we never step in, it's just about not taking over.
Yeah. I think the first time I really remember hearing the phrase, like, I hold that person as capable, like speaking about somebody else, was probably within our little Queens thread, or maybe we were all together, you, me, Elijah, and Melissa. And it was almost like self-talk, right? Because
Mhm.
whoever said it was talking themselves out of rescuing. And saying it out loud so that to remind themselves, okay, if I let them do this, whether they fail or succeed, I am holding them capable, which is better for them than it
Yeah.
would be if I was going to jump in and just do it for them.
It might have been me because I had a mentor who taught me that phrase and it really landed.
Okay.
I don't know.
I knew it was a blonde. I just wasn't sure if it was you, me, or Elijah. Melissa's
I
on the
don't know.
hook.
That's why I say might. I mean, it's not like whoever said that to me made it up or anything. It's been out
Yeah, yeah.
there. It's interesting that you just said that, and I didn't mean to interrupt. It's
No.
reminding me that both my boys every year work with this camp called Bike First, and it's a camp for kids with various disabilities, invisible and visible ones, and there's like one of their slogans is assume competency, right?
Oh, I
Like you're
love
here to
that.
like support them and help them learn, but they got to do it.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
going to feel really good about that. I was just asking Griffin, like, are you looking forward to being on a trip with everyone? He said, yeah, but I don't want people trying to take care of me. You know,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, that makes total sense. Yeah, so like being a lifeboat is exactly what it sounds like, right? Carrying someone's pain for them, over functioning, not having boundaries, right? We've talked about this. And while when you just said ask yourself the question, does it feel good? I think I think anybody would answer yes and right because I think it does feel
mm-hmm.
good sometimes. But if you're always being that lifeboat, if you're always over functioning, if you are always saying yes, if you're always trying to fix things, that is a really quick way to burnout, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then being the lighthouse is being that sort of shining light, being steady, being visible, um, showing somebody a way, but not jumping in and doing it for them, right? And so it's let's sort of over the course of this time together, we want to normalize not making ourselves small or depleted for someone else's survival, and not overstepping or over functioning when possible, so that again, everybody gets to learn, everybody gets to have their needs met, yourself included. Everyone gets to be witnessed and experience life on their own terms, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it's really well said. Thank you. I think I'm curious, like, yeah, I think a good question to ask yourself and like to ask ourselves, right? Right here is like, have you ever found yourself drained because you were doing more for someone than they were doing for themselves?
Yeah, and it's not even the reciprocal piece. That's the I think there's the key right there, right? It's not so much like, oh, I it's not tit for tat, right? I did that, so they did this. It's you constantly are doing, and wondering why aren't they figuring this out? Why aren't they doing this? And then there's that resentment, but the
Mhm.
resentment really is turned inwards because you
Totally.
start to realize, oh shit, like they're
Um,
they don't want it more than I want it.
yes. You can't want it more for them than they want it for them. That's so true.
Yep.
And another thing I've learned from that same mentor was like the rule of like 49%, or obviously I don't remember this part as well, but it was something like you you can't go more than 49% on the equation with that person, because
Mm,
if you tip over, then like they don't have as much skin in the game. You really got
right.
to show up and not do more towards whatever this goal is if they aren't
Right.
doing it, right? And it's true, and it just does, it reminds me so much. And I've been there so much with this in parenting and mentoring and in work situations where if I'm really competent in something and I can see how to run things more efficiently, I will off. I have. It's been a while. I have often, just kind of stepped in and done more than I probably needed to, and I probably prevented. I know I did prevented, important learning in those situations, and I've learned that. And it's funny because we hear this when we're coaching all the time, and we hear it with each other as friends, and we're really good at holding up that mirror. When you
Mhm.
start to get bitter, is it because you're doing something nobody asked you to do?
Right.
And you're feeling like, when you're feeling resentment, like you're in the lifeboat, whether you think so or not, or you're being the lifeboat, that
Yeah.
nobody asked for.
Right, right,
Possibly, you know, or they did ask for it and you're not taking care of your own needs or something, but it is a
right.
really good gauge. And from my human design, like bitterness is definitely a signal, like
Mm.
to look at, like, well, what are you doing that nobody asked for? Or even if they asked for, what are you doing that's not really good for you?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree. And it's funny you said the thing as a parent and as a coach, but I think, and I've said this before, I feel like when I went through my training as a coach, it just really timing wise coincided nicely with my kids becoming teenagers because it allowed me to learn how to not always be the lifeboat, to not always want to fix what they're going through. And
Mm.
especially in parenting, and you know, I've talked about this, like that can be really hard to see your kid struggle or be challenged, maybe even use the word suffer, and know that it is in their best interest to be a lighthouse and not a lifeboat in those moments. It might
Yeah.
take a little longer. It might not look exactly the way we want as moms, but ultimately, it's for everyone's best interest.
Oh, it's great because I mean, with all three kids, you know, as life would have it for everyone, there's rough moments that
Yeah.
you cannot protect them from, and you can't fix or navigate for them. This is absolutely being served up for them to navigate it themselves. And I've definitely, you know, bumped through that with my kids. I think, you know, the obvious example here would be Griffin, right? And just he's an adult with a disability, but a disability doesn't mean that he needs a lifeboat.
Right.
He needs accommodations. He needs
Yeah. Yeah.
understanding and patience. He does not need a rescuer. Um, and I totally fully, you know, admit that I have spent times, you know, operating like a lifeboat. And then I realized, like, not only has he trusted me, has he taught me and trusted me, but taught me to like learn to see him and trust him as capable. But also, I think what feels like the most important thing there is that he's I don't know. I guess I don't know how to say this in exactly the right words, but like what I feel like is the most important piece here is that um, whenever I am so focused on him, I get off kilter and I'm not taking great
Mm.
care of myself. And then he seems to be off. And that was true of all three of my kids.
Yeah.
Whenever they were kind of off, if I looked inward and like kind of self-adjusted and got into a grounded place, they were all instantly in better spirits.
Yeah.
And it stays true with me and him. It stays true probably if every family, but whenever I start to feel like he's a little off emotionally or energetically, or you know, if he's definitely tender because he's having more seizures, last thing he needs is for me to be exhausted and off kilter.
Right.
So it's really important for me to figure out what I need to do. Do I need someone else to step in for care so that I can kind of get as balanced as I can? So I think that's the most important piece, is that he needs a lighthouse more than ever, like always, no matter how bad things get, because he likes to find his rudder back to center on his own, but I need to be shining the way, right? So
Right.
it's definitely a piece that is ongoing, that I like. It's like I'm a lifelong learner in this thing, but I realize, and I've said it here before, and I've said it to his brothers, you know, when they're like, well, I don't want to go to the gym if he can't. Like, really, that's not going to help him if you're off kilter. If
Right.
you are can show up as grounded as you possibly can, you know, doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be better for everyone's dynamic, and it's always true.
I think yes, I think I have appreciated over the years how you've shared that with me when you've both ended up in a lifeboat and then got out of the lifeboat and
Yep.
turned into a lighthouse. If we're gonna keep carrying this analogy through, I see you work on that all the time, and I very much appreciate it. It's interesting because I'm I have the feeling for myself, and I've heard that it said, you know, you're only as happy as your least happy child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard not to. be the lifeboat in that moment, because I think there's a thought that, well, gosh, if I just fix this, then I will feel better. But that least happy child is also then not off, like you said, off kilter. So I guess I wonder if you have a tip on, if a mom is listening to this right now, and it doesn't have to be a disability, it could be an unhappy breakup, it could be anything that your child is going through right now. When you
Right.
catch yourself and you realize, oh crap, I've just become the lifeboat that that kid doesn't actually need right now. They need guidance, not help. What do you do to get yourself back on kilter?
Mm. That's a
Grounded,
really
I
good
guess.
question because what it reminds me of is it's not, I'm not saying be robotic and cold at all, but adding your emotion to it doesn't help. You
Yeah.
can be compassionate without fueling the emotion because there's already enough there. It just
Yeah.
reminded me that like someone I care about who's really a friend of my kids reached out to say he's going through a breakup and he's really sad and, would love to talk to me. And I was thinking like, oh, if that was one of my kids, like I felt immediately really sad. Like, oh, so like what you're
Yeah.
saying is whether it's your kids or someone you care about like that, what you want to do is just cheer that person up, right? Like, I don't know
Right.
if that's really who you and I are at this point anymore, but you
It's
know what I
not.
mean? Like sometimes
Yeah.
the tendency is, but that the job is not to like get the person not feeling sad. That's not it at all. It is
Right.
like, let me make myself available so you feel safe to just let those emotions spill out.
Be witnessed.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think taking a like step back for a second and like just kind of get grounded in who you are. It's we talk about this a lot in coaching, like what's your stance? Like
Yeah.
I'm witnessing and I have a lot of compassion, empathy, sympathy, all those things because I've been there. But what you need right now is a safe place to feel like, like you're not drowning, you're going through something that's just hard and I'm going to just, light the way for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't need me to pull you in a boat because like this isn't wrong. You didn't go wrong anywhere.
Right.
So like just because life is really hard right now doesn't mean you're not doing life right. And I think that that's been the thing that has been my greatest learning. I don't know if that answered your question though.
No, I
I'm not
think
sure.
I mean, it's not an actual active, but I think the answer is a little step back. But what I really liked what you just said there is you're not doing life wrong, right? Because when you are struggling, when you're feeling challenged by something, that is a default, right? Well, if I was doing this better or that better, this wouldn't be happening to me, right? There's this self-blame.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody comes in as the lifeboat and scoops you up, it almost reaffirms that. Oh, well, let me do it
Right.
because then you'll be better. But if you just take the stance, you are witness and reflect back, yeah, that fucking sucks. I'm so sorry you're
Yes.
going through that, without any advice or answers,
Right.
or false positivity, because that's not getting them anywhere. There's
Right.
the lighthouse. There's the stance, right? The lifeboat in that instance reaffirms what they're already feeling, that yep, I fucked this up. If I had done something different, I wouldn't be feeling this,
Right.
right?
And like I need someone to rescue me from this horrible pain,
Correct.
which you don't.
No, no.
Um, I was going to say this too. I don't know if this is out of place or if this will come up later, but I want to say it before I forget it. So
I know
I'll
there's been
say
a
it. We
couple
can put a
times I'm like,
pin
shit.
in it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, no.
But like something I learned, I remember when I was an RA,
Mm.
which is a resident advisor in the dorms. I remember just that's a natural setup to feel like the rescuer, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
well, the kind I wanted to be. I didn't want to be like the one that's like you're in trouble. And with women it was more that kind of stuff, like be available for when they're going through hard stuff, either be with another roommate, with a boyfriend. One of my roommates boyfriend was showing up with a python. I'm not kidding. So it's really strange
One of
stuff, but
your roommates or a
no.
roommate in the
A girl on my floor needed help talking to her roommate, whose boyfriend was always over, and he brought a python.
Jesus.
One night I
Okay.
came in really late. I was not on duty. I may not have been totally sober. And I was walking down the dark hallway and it was slithering towards me.
Oh my God. Oh shit.
I didn't see him. He was behind it, but Anyway, so what I want to say is like I remember having this big aha then around, towards the end, sort of becoming friends, but like, are we friends because they've never like, there has to be a balance. Like, where I also saw that same kind of role with friendships, if they didn't have a chance to also reciprocate that kind of, I'm here, I'm a safe person to come to with things, then I just kind of had this weird role of feeling like, well, I can't be messy because they rely on me to be the person they come to. And then it's an imbalance, right? When one person's always the giver, then there's not intimacy, and it's not a really great relationship. So I
Right.
think like if you apply that to the parenting thing, it's less clear, but like allowing them to see your vulnerability, that you struggle with stuff too, I think is my point, right? Like maybe you
Yeah.
don't burden your kids with stuff, when they're young and stuff, parentifying with big things, but allowing them to see that you're experiencing something hard and you don't even know how to figure it out. I think it's helpful because they like it's easier to have a really authentic relationship with somebody who's there for you at times, but is also not portraying that they do things perfectly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do tie our worth to being the helper, right? Like as you said at the beginning, right? This idea that women get praised from a very young age for being selfless and always there for people, that has been it's funny because that's been reflected to me as you're always there for everybody, and I don't really, I mean I am, but I also don't feel like I do it in lieu of my own self not self-worth, but like in lieu of my own self-care, I think is the word I'm looking for. So it's always funny to me that I'm sort of that's been reflected to me. But you're right. Like if we're always the helper, then we don't allow somebody else to help us. And then that not only is it an imbalance, but like you said at the beginning, people do enjoy helping, most people. And so you're kind of like taking something away. That's what I always try to look at. Like you're kind of taking something away from your friends when you don't allow them to help you,
Right.
right?
I totally. And I think you're going to be feeling less close,
Yes.
really, truly.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel as authentic. If, yeah,
And that friendship might
yeah.
start to feel lonely.
I mean, we know someone like that who like always shows up really strong for others and then disappears and doesn't tell us like what they're going through. And it's always like, hey, it's hard to like, like we want to be there for you too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think that's different, you and I have a different relationship than me and some of my other friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lucky you, you get to know everything. I don't share everything with everybody, and this is an interesting topic for me because I don't think of myself necessarily as a lifeboat. But I would always step up and help anybody that needed help. And I would not always reciprocate depending on who the person is, right? I can think of a very clear example right now of someone who is also pretty much like me, but there's some things going on that I have not shared with her. And I do think to myself, like, she's probably got shit going on she's not sharing with me either. And
Yeah.
if I asked, she would help and vice versa,
And if
right?
you were in person, you
And
would totally.
100%, a hundred
Yeah.
percent.
I was actually trying to think of how to keep this analogy going, but honestly, I'm pretty sure, I don't know for sure, but I feel pretty sure that even lighthouses need other lighthouses sometimes if like they get
Yeah,
really sucked in with fog, like you can't just rely, like so, obviously being a lighthouse does kind of suggest that you're super grounded and up high there. But sometimes lighthouses need to actually, connect with other lighthouses to find their footing because they're so sucked in.
right.
So think of it that way, right? Like
Yeah,
they're not like the one reliant source that knows all, it's not like the god of all lights. It's one light.
right, right.
And if it doesn't work, or if it got its own fog around it, it looks to another one. That's, I guess, the way I can put it is, it's not being a lighthouse is not being perfect. It's being taking care of yourself and also not over functioning, not going down the cliff to like get in, like rescue people, unless you obviously have to.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, I mean, this is one of the things that I think I really love about coaching is the ability to witness, ask, reflect. If you've never been coached, you might think that we give advice. And it's actually funny when somebody says, I was coaching someone yesterday. I've been doing some like one-off calls just for fun. And so this was a woman I didn't know. And we were having a really good conversation, and there was some really good, I would call them reflections from me. And she was like, "Oh, that's really great advice." And I actually like bristle when somebody says it. I'm like, "It's not advice. You don't have to take it."
Right. It's always like, it's so funny too, because yeah, people will be like, oh, I couldn't do this without you. Like, you absolutely could. The fact that wanted the mirror held up and the reflections
Right.
made, like, we are well trained to listen and hold up reflections. And sure, we all have the different ways we're good at that. But I would say that, like, the fact that know that you showed up for yourself to like be this vulnerable tells me you could do this without me.
Right.
Right, like,
Or they just need
and
the guidance, right? Which is they're
also
they're
like,
looking for the lighthouse.
and the thing is, like, it's a funny thing for us to say because we are human, we are not meant to do life alone.
Mm-mm.
So I like to say, like, I guess I could do this without you, but I'm so glad I don't have to. Right. Like, when I'm
Yeah.
feeling that way, like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
yeah.
God, you can do this with me. You could do this podcast without me. I could do something like this without you, maybe, but I sure wouldn't want to.
Yeah,
Um, but
absolutely.
honestly, like, I think it's so tempting. It's okay. Interdependence is so good. It is okay. Like,
A
we're
million
not
percent.
meant to like never depend on people. It's just really important to know that, to give yourself the credit that you're showing up to get the help.
We have an interview coming up in the fall that we thought we thought we had to reschedule uh because of you. And you were
Yeah.
like, "You could do it without me." And I just went, "No." I didn't even
Such
explain
a
it. I just typed, "No." Stop saying that.
I think I was busy at the time, but I was cracking up. I was gonna be like, I gotta get back to that. That was so funny.
Yeah, I mean, and being able, I think we've used the word lighthouse and lifeboat more than I've probably ever said it in my entire life. But there is
Mm,
something, when you think about the visual of a lighthouse, it is grounded, right? But it also, to go back to the needing support, like I will preface our song comes from Pete's Dragon. So I've been
mm.
visualizing that a lot this morning as we were prepping. And I think about at the tail end when if you've never seen Pete's Dragon, the original one with Helen Reddy and Mickey Rooney,
Loved it. I
please
picture
go
I can
watch.
picture it like it was
I know.
yesterday.
Oh my God, I love that movie so much when I was little. Um, at one point the light goes out and they know this big ship is headed and it happens to hold Helen Reddy's love on board, and they like hustle up, and the dragon has to come in and blow the light back on. Even lighthouses, you're right, need that support. It comes in and it might come in several people, right? Like they're running up, Mickey Rooney and Helen Reddy are running up to the top, and then they have to go get the dragon to come and actually blow the flick or whatever. What's the word? Whatever, the candle, the flame.
Yes.
And so it's thinking about, being grounded and knowing who your people are, who are the people that are going to support you so that you stay your best self.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's so well said.
Was it? I'm very
I'm
disappointed,
just
but
curious, like, I'm trying to think of an example. I wrote this note thinking you'd think I would have one ready. So I was like, what's a good example of when you kind of stepped back? I'm trying to think of one outside of parenting because I have so many of these in parenting, right?
right.
You step back and people grew much more because you didn't step in and do it for them, or you didn't step in the ways you were tempted to.
I mean, again, I think off the top of my head, I can think of some clients,
Mm-hmm.
who want me, and probably even more so students back in the day, right?
Right.
Because they really wanted, I want you to tell me what to do.
Right.
Well, that's not, I mean, I can tell you what I would do, but what I would do doesn't necessarily work for you, right? So,
Right.
um, I think as a coach, um, there are times where it's like, you know what, especially when I'm business coaching, like I would help create a business plan. But when it comes down to the limiting beliefs or the blocks that keeps them from doing that, I can't tell them how would even this woman I was talking to yesterday, she was like, well, how would I set up a schedule? And I'm like, I can't, I don't know you. And B, even if I did know you really well, like I can't tell you how to set up your schedule, but I can reflect back what you've been saying to me and where I see some possibilities. So I think it would be I think the tendency would be it'd be easier to just step in and say, okay, do this and then this and then this and then this. Um, but again, that's not teaching them to fish.
No, I was just thinking this is maybe the best example, but it's the funniest one that I've shared here before, which is, part of coaching and especially some of the, kind of little tender stuff that I get into with
Yeah,
clients when you're first learning it. And honestly, like I think interpersonally, women, we're conditioned to try and make everyone feel good. Right? And we grew up at a time where like our parents' generation thought their job was to like have happy kids. Like your job's to be happy.
right.
And I think you and I try and say here, in fact, if you haven't heard us, if you don't know this, but is, you're not meant to be happy. You're meant to live an authentic life and allow all emotions. And then you'll access more joy when you don't block other emotions. However, in coaching and just like in life, you might be tempted to like jump in and ask something if they're hesitating or you sense emotion, like, oh, let me put it another way. Let me ask it this
Mm,
way, like
hmm.
explain it to them or offer like a easier path to get through this difficult moment. And I'm, I think I'm really good with silence and discomfort. And I think people, luckily, we have good rapport and they trust me in that. But early on, like I told you, I was accidentally on mute and they didn't hear me go, like ask another question. And then we got to this like really huge, just emotional breakthrough, which doesn't always happen. Like that's not the whole point, but like this definitely was there. And one of her like most resounding pieces of feedback for me was like allowing her that silence. Because she really, really couldn't escape what she needed to like embrace right there. And I was
Mm.
like, I'm so glad. And then I told her later, like, that like that was that was some divine intervention because I was you couldn't hear me. And
But
it
isn't
taught
that
me,
interesting? Because it was, yeah, I was gonna say it taught you something.
it taught me everything. It taught me everything. Like that was a huge turning point for me was
Wow.
don't like and also it was part of my training. It was early on and it was one thing we learned from one of our mentors was, if it's a burning thing you think you need to ask, wait a second, because that might be projection or ego. But if it's like just coming to you, take like you'll know if and when to ask it. If it's just
Yeah.
something that like you, and so like just breathe and wait. And like your my whole purpose there as the person in any situation, right? Like that if someone's in need of support, thinks they need rescuing, the more you listen and ask questions, as long as they're feeling safe, they're going to come to their own answers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For me, I would say that shows up because I've been having this experience a lot lately where something comes to my head to say, and immediately it's almost devil angel because it comes to my head, and then the angel goes, nope, don't say that. And I reflect later, like, oh, I'm so glad I kept my mouth shut at that moment because it just wouldn't have been helpful. But it's the human side of me that wants to keep asking, keep asking, keep asking, and or saying or reflecting or whatever. And sometimes uh shutting the fuck up is really helpful.
And in so many places in life that applies.
Yep.
Yeah. I would say also like a huge aha learning moment for me along these lines is, I did Jesuit volunteer corps after college, and a lot of Jesuit schools are predominantly white, upper middle class or like higher income. And it's not a bad thing that kids graduate with like community service minded goals and they want to do something like that. Like the Peace Corps, but in this country is kind of how they described it. And it's only
Mhm.
1 year, not two. Um, so I so badly wanted to do that. And to their credit, they do a lot of self-awareness training there of like, we're not meant to come in here and be these like white knights, like we're here to save you. It's just ridiculous, right? To be in these
Yeah.
high needs communities and be a bunch of mostly white kids, mostly women, that are there to help. So I
Yeah.
think, and I don't mean to say that sarcastically, but like it is really true. Like it is a multi-level um experience around like the exchange
Hmm.
of what's possible there. Like when you become part of a community, you got to learn first. You have to, like, the service learning piece of it is huge, the social justice piece of it is huge, the that living in community is huge. And then also, you got to learn first. You got to walk humbly and learn and serve before you do any kind of help. And you could get to the whole end of the year and realize, God, I took so much more from this than I even gave. I hope I helped in some
Yeah.
way. Right. And that's okay too, as long
Right.
as people are seen and respected and communities feel like this kind of help is elevating their either their cause or their need to get more resources. That's fine. But to look at it as like, I'm going to go be a good person for a year before I start my life, like, I guess you could do that. You're really missing the point. People aren't needing rescue. They're needing, they're needing some balance of justice, possibly, or some awareness brought to what's going on there. Like, whether I was working with homeless elderly, um, my roommate was working at a food bank, another roommate was working at a women's shelter.
Mm.
So there was so much we gained in learning from these incredible people who had just really tough lives. And I just think I ceased seeing it as helping and saw it as like, oh, an opportunity to learn about yourself and learn how to be a lighthouse when you can and learn about dignity.
Yeah. 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 I mean, as we've already said before, like it in the best of times and probably your most uh, robust relationships, again, whether it's blood or friends or community or whatever, when we allow ourselves to be helped and that we're not always the giver. I guess we could have used that song from Chapel Roan.
Oh yeah.
We, if we don't allow people to help us, then we won't feel seen and heard. And that's a human desire, is to feel seen and heard. And it will turn into resentment, probably turned inward, maybe towards your friends, which would be sad because if you aren't putting the effort out there to be helped, it's not their fault if they're not helping. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think our most robust relationships, the connection is when we let ourselves be helped at along while we are also doing the helping.
Mm, I like that. I mean, I think too that it's interesting you just said that, because I can sometimes be someone who just sort of pulls away. Like, I don't know if I
It's
could be a
easier to
lighthouse this
help.
week, right? It is, but also, let, like, ask someone to be a lighthouse for you, give them
Yeah,
that opportunity. Like
exactly.
there's, I can't be a lighthouse for anyone this week, but
Hmm.
our friend needs that. And I'm gonna, derive something from that too. Like, just bask in the way we all take turns as a community,
Yeah,
maybe. Or, be vulnerable and say, could you light up something for me? Because I have nothing. I don't know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just think it is really not about being perfect and grounded. It's just about, when you can be steady for someone else, don't underestimate how helpful that is.
yeah. And asking for the help is also helpful to let them be the steadiness.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so we could have used the giver, but as I already shared, we decided, and by we I mean me. I was like, I want Pete's Dragon, and you didn't
I
argue.
love
So,
you.
yeah. So, and there's something very um, cool about it being a Helen Reddy song too, because we've never
I do.
quoted anything from her, and so that it feels like it's uh, feeding two birds with one scone, as I like to say now. So it's
I love that. I've not heard you say that, and I
really,
really love it. I got to say
yeah.
that to my mom because she loves birds and she makes scones all the
There you
time.
go. And
She's
it's
gonna
just
love it.
mean to kill two birds with one stone. So somebody pointed that out. I was like, oh, yeah, I like this better.
So
Anywho, that's
good.
a whole different topic. So the song is Candle on the Water. And I pulled a kind of a section in the center because, you know, she is singing this song earlier on in the movie. And I think, again, she's singing it to her love interest who's on the ship. But also, she was that, her and her dad, who was played by Mickey Rooney, were that for Pete. And as he was trying to get away from the mean people that had his birth certificate or whatever that was. So
Mm.
the words are, I'll be your candle on the water till every wave is warm and bright. My soul is there beside you. Let this candle guide you. Soon you'll see a golden stream of light. A cold and friendless tide has found you. Don't let the stormy darkness pull you down. I'll paint a ray of hope around you, circling in the air, lighted by a prayer. I'll be your candle on the water.
Mm.
I
I
know. I
like
feel like I
it.
want to put that on a playlist. But then it would feel weird just like randomly have a Disney song on a playlist. So I don't know. To be determined.
God, I just had like for some reason, I don't know who it was. It was some hair band. Was it? No, I don't know if it was Bon Jovi. I'll be there for you. There's some cheesy song. I'll be there for
Oh,
you. These five
yeah.
words I swear is true. When you breathe, I
Yeah.
want to be the air for you. How come
I
I know these words?
I
Oh, I
have
know why.
no
Because I
idea.
worked in a restaurant in the 80s and like those songs were playing a lot. But it's just so funny. You just shared these beautiful ones and like it brought me to that.
You went to a hair band. That's fair. I mean, again, we grew up in the
I don't
80s.
know. That's so
This
funny.
is from the 70s. This is when we
Your
were
song
little.
is better. So much better.
Well, it's funny how sometimes we think like, ooh, we can't think of a song, and then we get into the topic. It's like, ooh, it could be this song. Ooh, it could be this song. Ooh, it could be this song.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So let's wrap this up with some words of things we know. Would you like to
Mm.
start? I was going to say
I
wise
guess,
words, but you know.
yeah, I just think like next time you feel like somebody needs you to rescue them,
Hmm.
maybe, just help them remember they're doing great rescuing themselves and you're there to witness and hug and love and, be present, but they may not need the rescuing they think is, and that's not the most eloquent way, but that's just what's coming to me is, you know, just
What they might
just
need
right.
What they might need is just the clarity, which
Yes.
you can be, because when somebody is swirling like that, right? They can feel like they're very discombobulated, and you might, in reflecting their words, their clarity for that moment in time,
Yeah.
they're going to think, "Oh gosh, that was amazing." But oftentimes, you and I both know this. We're just reflecting back literally what our client said, and they're like, "That's amazing. Can you say that again?" I'm like, "You said that."
Right. And like that's a great reminder. It's like not about you. It's just you get
Right.
to be there for them. And so no pressure. Just be present and loving them is enough. And reminding
Mhm.
them that as shitty as this is, it's temporary, but you're willing to sit in it with them until it's feeling less ouchy.
Absolutely. That feels like the perfect way to end.
Hmm.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back next week.
Bye.